All right, so this is kind of the problem that a lot of charities and nonprofits face. You have an amazing vision and an amazing mission and lots to tell people about, but it's just extremely challenging to be found on Google. Google is extremely noisy, and that is the reality for a lot of charities and nonprofits. And so we're trying polls this month, so we're going to try a poll here. And my question for you is, and you should see it pop up there, how many searches per second do you think happen on Google? How many searches per second do you think happen on Google? So I'll throw it out to you. That's great. There's definitely lots of people are definitely falling for the trick. I know in polls, uh, I think statistically the most common answer is C, and so I was trying to do three options. And but yes, as we run the poll here, you'll find that it's 99,000 uh, searches per second. 99,000 searches per second. And it's just incredible the amount of noise on Google. That amounts to 8.5 billion searches per day and 172 million visitors per day. And that's in Canada. And of course, North America wide, much, much bigger. But of course, like there's a reason that there's so much search on Google. It's relevant. It's targeted directly at keyword searches, and so you can reach people that are searching exactly for what you're providing. Um, and there's a ton of searches around social issues, charity topics. There's a lot of really good traffic, but the problem is there's far too much noise in the space, and especially in I think the nonprofit charity space, there's a lot of news articles, popular blogs coming up, but rarely do nonprofits and charities rarely do they show up often. And so this is really the challenge that charities face is that they have this opportunity with Google, a ton of relevant traffic available to them. But unfortunately, it's just so noisy that it's hard to cut through that noise. And so this is what Google Ads and specifically the Google Grants program seeks to fix. And an effective Google Ads campaign can cut through the noise and it can reach exactly who you want to reach. And we'll talk about how to get there. But it's a great solution to this problem of having that mission and vision so clear and something to share and an impact to share about, but not being able to reach people. And so Google Ads is a great way to do that. All right, we're going crazy on the polls this month. And so I want to ask you quickly. Oh, sorry. We'll stop sharing that. Hopefully that wasn't in your way. Um, so the next poll we're going to ask, are you currently using Google Ads for your charity? So I'm going to throw out that poll and see kind of what the mix is. It's a simple one, yes or no. There's no wrong answer. Are you currently using Google Ads for your charity? Yes or no. And this kind of will help us as we go through the webinar where to focus our time more. Okay, so the majority we're seeing definitely haven't used Google Ads or aren't using Google Ads for their charity right now. 77% of attendees aren't. Um, and so that's great. It's a great introduction. We're going to go through some of those basics. And for those who are using Google Ads, there's lots in here for you to kind of hone your strategy and do even better with Google Ads because that's really the goal. All right, so um, what are Google search ads? For those who are totally new to Google Ads, you can see kind of a screenshot of the Google search engine results page, and you'll see at the very top a sponsored ad. Of course, it's a Google ad about Google Ads. And you'll notice that there's a few three P's that I kind of put together here. So first of all, it's prominent. You'll notice that it shows on Google search engine results page right below the search text. It's front and center. It's right above the actual organic results, and you'll usually get three or four that are before the organic search results. It's fully text-based, so there's no imagery, although they've introduced, you'll notice like a logo or a favicon there. And there are some instances where you can get a little photo in, but it is very much text heavy. And you'll notice as well that there's bolded text that says sponsored. And so it's pretty obvious to people that it is a sponsored ad that you're paying for. And Google search ads are paid. So we'll get to the Google grant side in a second, but Google ads in general, you can also have a paid and a Google ads Google grant. So there's a free and a paid option. But in general, it is a pay per click model, meaning that you're only paying Google when you get an actual click on your ad. And this is really beneficial because it almost guarantees some sort of traffic to your website. And if you can do a really good job with Google Ads with your targeting and your keyword triggers, then you're going to get good relevant traffic to your website. People always ask me like the cost for or per click, or just even a guess, and it like varies widely across industry sector, but we found $1 to $2 per click is usually around what you would get with a decent Google Ads campaign. And so you can extrapolate that to, $100 gets you about 100 clicks. So that gives you an idea. And Google ads are extremely precise. So if you're comparing this to other forms of ads like meta ads, or TikTok, Snapchat, display ads, remarketing, these Google ads are extremely precise. All those other examples are using different types of targeting by persona, but Google ads specifically focus on keywords as the triggers. And so you can, based on that keyword trigger, you can get really, really specific and hone in on specifically what your searcher is looking for. And you can avoid certain keywords that you know aren't people who are going to invest in your organization or partner with you, or you can focus in on those keywords that you think will be most relevant to your target persona. But there's also additional parameters. You can add a bit more focus to it beyond the keyword triggers, including like a geographic target. So you can focus in on like a radius, a border radius around a specific location. You can do city, country, province, state. All these things are possible as well. So you're really targeting in on exactly who you want to hit. You can also do demographics and a few other parameters as well. So Google Ads is a great opportunity. It's a perfect venue to dip your toe into digital advertising because it is prominent. Google searches are still one of the highest ways people find information, as we saw by the amount of searches per second. It's paid. It's a fairly reasonable cost of $1 to $2 per click, depending, and then it's very precise, which is amazing for that targeting. Here's what a Google ad looks like. Really, it basically is in the background, in the behind the scenes, is about 15 headlines and 4 descriptions. And Google is dynamically choosing a bunch of different combinations of those headlines and descriptions to give the best results for you. So you kind of put in, when you build a campaign, which we'll talk about, you put in kind of your goal, which might be conversions and or clicks or views. And so it will optimize those headlines and descriptions for your goal. So it's amazing at that kind of A/B testing, which we like to do a lot in digital marketing. You can also add your business name, a logo to the ads for brand awareness. So that's what a Google ad would look like. The Google Ads Grants program is just an amazing opportunity, and this is what is definitely something that is very prominent in the nonprofit and charity community, and this is why there's so much interest, is because of this amazing program. So Google provides $10,000 in free ad spend per month. And that's specifically for nonprofits, charities. It's worldwide. There's many, many different countries where these nonprofits and charities can exist. In Canada, it's organizations that are registered as a charity or a nonprofit. And in the US, they have to be registered as a 501c3 organization. There are some limitations if you're comparing a Google Grants program versus a paid program. The Google Ads program only supports text-based ads, so there's a bunch of different campaigns you can run in Google Ads, such as like YouTube video ads or display ads across their display network. So it doesn't include those, it's just the text based, which is perfectly fine for a lot of charities and nonprofits. There's also a limitation on the cost per click. So this is the kicker with Google Grants, is that you can't go beyond a $2 cost per click. And of course, this is free ad spend, but Google is limiting you to $2 cost per click. And this is so that you don't outperform some of their paying customers, some of the corporations that are vying for some of those highly competitive keywords. Like some keywords are, 20 to $30 to $40 per click. I really wouldn't advise that even to corporations, but for nonprofits and charities on the Google Grants program, they are limited to $2 cost per click. But even with that limitation, there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of keywords that are available that are easily below that $2 mark. And it just takes being creative and adding as many keywords as you can, which we'll get to. However, based on these limitations, one of the biggest challenges for a lot of charities and nonprofits is using the full $10,000 ad spend per month. We'll talk about some case studies, and you'll notice that some of these case studies, or the two case studies that we'll show, don't use that full available ad spend. And that's because there simply isn't enough search traffic for keywords under $2 based on our list of keywords. And so what we want to do is continue to add keywords so that we can continue to use up that ad spend each month and the available grant that exists. So if you haven't applied, and I know the majority of the viewers here aren't using Google Ads, you can go to google.com/grants maybe after this webinar, and you can submit a request to become part of the program. And they have a verification process that's just verifying that you are one of these official nonprofits or charities, and then you can go from there. So it's pretty easy to apply for the program, and there's few limitations on it for nonprofits and charities. So once you've signed up for the Google Grants program, it's time to actually dive into building your campaign. And so this is the plan that we use with our clients. We go through these 4 stages, 3 stages in building, and then the 4th is kind of upkeep. So we go from strategy to keyword research to the ad creation. And then in there's the launch, of course, and then maintenance from there. And we'll walk you through how we go about each one and what we're thinking about as we build a campaign. And hopefully this helps you as you go about this process yourself. And so here is our plan. I know it seems a bit daunting diving in, and especially as you kind of get into the Google Ads platform, it can seem a bit daunting, but we're here to kind of provide you this step-by-step plan, and hopefully it helps along the way. And so we'll go through each one of these steps and walk you through how we go about it. So the first one is strategy, and this is really important. It's often something that charities and nonprofits forget. They kind of sign up for the grant program and then dive in and just start adding keywords to campaigns and creating ads, and it can quickly become unruly without a streamlined strategy. And so that's what we preach starting with all the time, and this is what we do in our own campaigns that we build for our charity and nonprofit clients. The first thing is just defining the goal, and that's what I mentioned earlier in the webinar is defining the goal is really important because you can also help Google help you with achieving that goal. So just a few examples of goals that you might want to achieve. You might want to get more donations or donors to your website. You want to get more registrations maybe for an event or a gala. You might want more brand awareness just to get your name out there around specific ideas or keyword searches, or even advocacy, like trying to make a change and to turn people's minds on certain issues. And so you want to define these campaign goals. You can have one or more and just have them written out first. And it's really important to associate with each one a KPI. And by KPI, I mean a key performance indicator. So for each one of these campaign goals, for example, donations, you want to be able to track how many donations you get from the Google Ads campaign. And because Google has the ability to connect with, like across its suite of products, it can connect Google Ads to GA4, Google Analytics 4, and really easily relate back to Google Ads that there's been a successful donation or a successful registration. And so we want to build those KPIs as goals in Google Analytics 4 so that we can tell, is this Google Ads campaign driving real change? Is it providing real value? And so it's really important off the bat just to think about, what am I trying to get out of this Google Ads campaign, and how can I track it? How can I track it over the long term so we can optimize the campaign? Next, you want to think about, for each one of those goals, what is your, or who is your target audience? So for donors, you might know that they live in a specific geographic area. They might be a certain gender or age. So you want to focus in on that and maybe even use those as like search parameters in Google Ads as you build the campaign. For events, you might have a specific persona in view for the event, and so building that into the campaign is really important. Or even clients. It's really important not only to get the goal, but understand your target audience. And then finally, you want to define your ad groups. And this is one of the biggest things that is really important to do, because ad groups are simply just like clusters of keywords with which you can associate certain ads. And usually how we do this at Louis Street Marketing is we define ad groups as separate goals / audiences. And so, for example, if you want to reach a number of donors to donate to your charity or nonprofit, then you would build an ad group just for donors. If you had a specific event, like a gala, you would then build an ad group just for that gala. And so an ad group is essentially saying it's a different goal or a different audience. You can do as many ad groups as you want, or as few, but if you do too many ad groups, it becomes unruly and there's a lot more overhead and work to upkeep it. And if you do too few ad groups, it doesn't give you as much data about what cluster of keywords are working, or what ads are working. So it's really important to kind of separate them out. And each ad group would have its own, like I said, ads attached to it, but also attached to those ads are its own landing pages. And so that's where you're sending people from the ad. So just as an example, you might have a charity dinner that you want to promote on Google Ads. And so the goal would be signups for that charity dinner. And your target audience might be, people in a specific location within driving distance of this dinner, and even supporters and donors, people interested in your cause. And so you would build an ad group with keywords around that gala or dinner. Those keywords would be specific to your cause, and you would specifically drive to the landing page that would be to sign up for the event. So that's kind of an example of an ad group, of what an ad group looks like. And hopefully that helps you. And this is the strategy that we try to implement with every single Google Ads campaign we run. It's all about defining the goal first, then the audience, and then the ad groups. And the ad groups really help you to kind of define what the ad campaign is going to look like. One example of this is our client Compass Refugee Center. And so Compass is an amazing organization. They help people legally navigate Canada's refugee claim price process. And it's specifically for people who are seeking protection from persecution, threats, and oppression. And they've helped 13,000 people, and they're currently helping 1,800 people from 180 countries. So you can check them out at compassrefugee.ca, and they've been a long time a client of ours. But when they came to us, they had kind of a lack of awareness about specifically the refugee claim process in Canada, and a lack of traffic to their website. And specifically, they actually had a rebrand as they reached out to us. And so what we did was we built a new website for them, and then we utilized Google Ads right out of the gate. And we had a number of ad groups around advocacy, volunteering for Compass, donations to Compass, and stories and news. And so what's amazing is we're able to use about $30,000 of that free ad spend. Again, trying to do our best with the limitations that you have within Google Grants program. But that resulted in driving 20% of their total website visitors, and a bump in total donations as well. And so they're seeing good results from Google Ads, really encouraging results, especially on the advocacy and awareness side of things. And so that's a great example, again, of that strategy. When you go in, you got to understand, what are my goals with this channel, and then how can I track and improve over time? And that campaign just keeps improving as we optimize it on a monthly basis. So once you have your strategy, you're not even in Google Ads platform yet. You want to kind of define those on paper or in a spreadsheet first. We usually use a Google Sheet. And then we get into the fun stuff, which is the actual keyword planning. And so Google actually has a really cool tool called the Keyword Planner that's really easy to use. It's fairly intuitive, and it allows you to find keywords that you can insert into each ad group. And you can do this by searching by a seed keyword, is what we say, or basically the lowest common denominator keyword. And then, or you can use like a website URL. So you could put your Charities URL in, and it would look at what keywords might be relevant to you. So at this point, I wanted to do a quick demo of the Keyword Planner tool very quickly, just to show you how it works, and give you an idea. And here's the Keyword Planner tool. You can see we're just in Google Ads here in my account. What it's giving you two options to do is to start with keywords, those seed keywords, or start with a website. So you can start with either one. We'll just start with keywords, and I'll type in nonprofit just as an example. You'll notice that there's two filters here. So you can change the language that you're looking for keywords in, and also the specific location, and you can get very granular, fairly granular in the Keyword Planner tool there. You can also insert a site here to kind of filter the results, and Google will look at your site and kind of give you something that's relevant to your website. So you put your seed keyword or keywords into kind of this search and get results. And what Google's going to do is give you a bunch of different keyword ideas down here in the list that you can take a look at. You'll notice that it gives you the keyword, the average monthly searches with kind of a cool line chart of the search volume over the last few months. You can also see like the changes over time, the competition, and some of the cost per click ranges from low to high. And so what we look to do is essentially choose a number of keywords that you think might be relevant to your campaign. And then we basically add the keywords to a plan. And a plan is kind of like a campaign, but it's in draft mode. So you'll see here it saves them and says it's in the plan and saved for later. You can do this a bunch with a bunch of different seed keywords and just build your plan over time and create a big, huge list of keywords. We try to keep ad groups to about 30 to 40 keywords per ad group, just because, again, it becomes a bit unruly and hard to manage if it becomes any bigger than that. But then the cool thing about the keyword planner is you can now forecast the how the campaign's going to do. So here we go. Sorry about that. Forecast. So you'll see here that based on the keywords that we have in our plan, Google is estimating that we'll get 4 conversions for $310 at $10 average daily budget. You can change it even to clicks to see what you're going to get. Our average budget, of course, would be 10,000 divided by 30, which is 300 a day. And so you can see the forecast here of what it estimates for those keywords that you get. So 950 clicks. Now, of course, the average cost per click is higher than the $2. And so you would get the clicks with the Google Grants program that kind of drop below the $2 estimate. But still, you'll get lots of different clicks, and this is specific as well to your keyword match type. And I'll explain that here as we go. But there's a number of different match types for keywords in Google Ads. And match types range, here we'll go back to our slide. Match types can be broad. That's one of the match types. And broad basically looks at every single synonym, any order of the keywords that you've chosen. And it has a wide net that it's casting and a maximum reach. And so if you're choosing broad match for your keywords, you're going to find that you're getting searches. Your ads are showing up for searches that are very lightly connected to your original keyword. There's also phrase match, and this is a bit more moderate. It'll still look at some synonyms, but it won't go as far as broad. And then finally, there is exact. And this is the exact term that you're looking for. It's the narrowest. You're only showing up for that specific term that you're adding into your campaign. And so these three match types allow us to kind of determine how far we want to cast our net. Usually with charities and nonprofits, we go broad over and over, just because, again, we're trying to reach a higher ad spend. We're trying to reach the $10,000 a month ad spend. And so often we'll just go with broad in all our keywords to cast that wide net. There are some cases where we're getting traffic that we don't want, and broad match might be casting the net a bit too large, in which case we would downgrade a keyword, an offending keyword, down to phrase, just to reduce the kind of synonyms and matches that they'll get. So that's kind of the keyword research phase. You're just going through using Keyword Planner, and there's a few other tools that sometimes we use, but mostly Keyword Planner, choosing a number of keywords that connect to your group, your ad group, and the goal and the persona that you're targeting, and you're compiling a keyword list. Usually when we're looking at building campaigns for companies on an actual budget, within the paid program, we're going to look for keywords that are low competition, meaning that there's a lower cost per click, but they're also more relevant to the searcher. But for a nonprofit or charity, you're just looking for as many keywords as you can add. You're looking at a bunch of different variations, synonyms, different phrasing, and adding as many as you can into your ad group, excuse me, that are relevant. And then you can forecast the potential results, which helps, of course, for those reviewing the keywords or just to get an idea of how things are going. So that's the second step. The first step is the strategy. The second step, that keyword research. Next, we go on to ad creation. So we do this usually in a Google Sheet again, but we look at our ad groups, and for each ad group, we build a bunch of usually 1 or 2 ads, and these ads have, again, 15 headlines and 4 descriptions. And so we write those ads for our clients, and they specifically relate to the keywords that you chose. So it's really good to do the keyword research first before you do the ad creation, because you want to make sure that your ads speak directly to the keywords, because there has to be that correlation. Otherwise, you're not going to get the click from the actual searcher. And so you want to build unique ads for each ad group. We've talked about this before in other webinars, but it's really important to think about storytelling throughout each one of your ads. Make sure that you're mentioning kind of the problem, the guide, the plan. Take them through that story and kind of come to them at the same place they're at with the problem, and then present yourself just as a guide that's coming alongside. We don't want to talk about ourselves all the time in ads, but instead talk about like the benefits that we're providing to our beneficiaries, and also how we're helping donors to impact the cause. And then also mention just the success or the failure that can result from a donor or supporter partnering with your organization, how your cause can end in a win with the support of the searcher, or how there's real risk involved if they don't get on board and if they don't invest in your cause and specifically your organization. And then finally, make sure you utilize DAD, which stands for disrupting, attracting, and directing. So in every ad we do, we want to make sure, first of all, to disrupt, to catch the searcher's attention. And this is really important, again, because there is so much noise on Google with so many searches per second. You have a split second to get the attention of the searcher and to grab it among just a list of links. And so disrupting them, you want to use unique and bold language. You can even do a search just in incognito and just do a search for some of your keywords and see what your competitors or other organizations are showing up for, and look for ways to disrupt or attract somebody's eyes to your ads. You also want to attract them. So once you've disrupted them, ideally with one of the headlines, you want to attract them and pull them in, and that's with the description text. And so doing that is really important to just make sure, first of all, to make sure they know that you're speaking to them. So use kind of that empathy and speak to their problem again, but pull them in with more about you being the guide and just coming alongside them and helping them impact the cause that they're searching to change. And then finally, direct. You always want to make sure that there's some sort of call to action in a number of your descriptions and even some of your headlines, just so that it causes people to click. It's not just information they can read, but it really should drive people to your website. The more people you can drive to the website, the more you can kind of pull in and tell your story there on the website. And so as you build your ads, just make sure you're building 1 or 2 per ad group, per keyword cluster. You also want to incorporate that storytelling and utilize DAD in that you're disrupting, attracting, and then directing. in Google Ads, as you build your campaign, Google Ads will walk you through this process. So you'll start by adding a bunch of keywords, and you would just literally copy and paste your keyword planner list into Google Ads. And then from there, you move on to the Google ad creation space, and that's where they give you 15 or a bunch of slots for headlines, up to 15, and then description slots for your descriptions. Usually we build this all in Google Sheets and then paste it into the Google Ad Manager, just because it's a bit easier. But Google Ad Manager will also help you with the ad creation. It'll give you, it uses AI, of course, to give you some different options for descriptions and headlines. It also wants you to make sure you have keywords in the ads itself, and that increases the chances that you'll actually get a click. And so that's important as well. So it'll give you lots of tips and tricks. And just as long as you kind of make sure to story tell and disrupt and attract, you'll do well with those ads. Once you've launched your campaign, which is fairly easy to do, it's just a click to publish. Google is fairly quick to review the ads, and then they'll be live. Once you've launched your campaign, you don't want to just kind of set it and forget it. It is good to give it a few weeks to kind of percolate, but it is really good to kind of set a schedule to check in on it and review and optimize it. Weekly is definitely recommended, although monthly definitely is kind of most common with a lot of our clients. It just is tough sometimes with a Google Ads campaign to act on a monthly basis, because you'll see sometimes some things crop up, or Google makes an auto suggested change that you don't really want to happen. And so weekly allows you to catch those quicker. But it's really important just to check in on it regularly, to look specifically for like notifications. Google will always notify you of, payment method errors or policy issues that you might come up against. It'll give you recommendations as well to improve your ads and to improve your keywords. It'll suggest new keywords to add. So you can always auto apply those, and it'll automatically add those. And you can also look at search terms, and this is a really important report because it can look at what are people actually searching. Your keyword triggers, again, can be broad match or phrase match, and so the actual search term that people are searching into Google might be different or closely related to the actual keyword list. And so it's sometimes really interesting to see what are people searching into Google to find you, and what are you coming up for. And we've actually found a lot of really good data. It's almost like a little bit of customer research that's happening on Google itself, and you can get an idea of maybe some other keywords that you could add into your campaign that are a bit more relevant to the search terms that are happening. The other thing as well is to add negative keywords. This is something that's less common within the nonprofit charity space, but there is the ability to put in negative keywords, which simply means that if somebody searches something similar or related to this negative term, your ads won't show up. And so you would do this in the case like where you're getting some bad traffic from a specific keyword or a search term. And so you can add that as a negative keyword, and that will reduce some of the traffic that you're getting from that term or topic. You want to remember to review your KPIs, so the key performance indicators back from when we thought about the goals. You want to make sure to input those or review those KPIs that you've inputted into Google, and just make sure that first of all they're tracking, but also how are they doing, what's the conversion rate, and you're continually trying to optimize those. And so KPIs might be like, for example, click-through rate. That might be one of your key performance indicators. And so you want to, in order to improve your click-through rate, you want to improve your ads and the text in your ads and the relationship to the keywords in your ads. And so that might be your KPI, but looking at that and tracking it over time is important. You might also use Google Analytics 4 to look at some of your KPIs. For example, engagement rate on Google Analytics is really good. This kind of defines, are you sending the right type of traffic? Is your ad relating to your landing page text? Is your landing page doing well at kind of pulling them in and really studying and reading the information or watching a video on it? And then finally, conversion rate is the most popular and obvious KPI. So it might be how many people are donating or how many people are signing up for the event. Um, Tracking that and then looking at the conversion rate and then trying to improve over time for that is ideal. And then just adjusting the campaign. So a number of the things that we do on a regular basis is adding negative keywords or new keywords to your campaign. We'll add new headlines and new descriptions. And we're, again, just trying to give more combinations in the ads to be A/B tested. And for the keywords, we're just trying to hone in on that keyword list, remove the bad traffic, and increase the good traffic with more and more keyword experiments, and then just keep experimenting with everything you can. Experiment with different headlines and keywords and phrases. This is what this optimization is trying to do. It's trying to learn from your search traffic and learn from your search terms and get better and better over time so that you can improve your campaign and get the most out of the Google grant that you can. In terms of a case study, this is my hometown, Stratford, and so they have a tourism organization called Destination Stratford. If you haven't been to Stratford, Ontario, Canada, I would highly recommend it. Just avoid the swans, they can be vicious. And so Destination Stratford, they are kind of a marketing organization, and they kind of just try to develop and promote Stratford as a cultural destination. And we've been working with them for a couple years now with their Google Ads program. When they came to us, they were already running Google Ads, but not optimized to the full extent. And so our plan was to kind of come in and rebuild the campaign and then maintain it over time. And so again, we have a number of ad groups around specific events that are happening in Stratford year round, as well as just things around the culture, things like the art and the food and the music and all these things. And so for them, they got really good results out of it. They've spent 60% of the ad spend on an annual basis. They do really well, especially in the on season. In Stratford, of course, there are like touristic high seasons, especially in the spring and summer when the festival's running. And so they'll spend 100% of the budget then. Through the winter months, it wanes a little bit just because tourism is a bit tougher then. But 60% of the ad spend is incredible, especially with a seasonal organization like that. And Google Ads drove 12% of their website visitors to their website for Destination Stratford. So incredible results there. And it was actually 3 times the amount of visitors that social media drove to Destination Stratford's website. And so it's just an example of how powerful Google Ads can be to drive people to a website to engage and to provide real results. And so that's kind of the plan. I know that Google Ads can seem a bit daunting, but it really boils down to this 4 or 3-step process. Defining your strategy, your goals, your personas, your ad groups, going to keyword research, and then building those ads and constantly checking in on it. There's kind of 2 different ways that this can result. Of course, if you misuse Google Ads and the Google grants, you can drive traffic, but it can end up being empty and low intent, and it'll drive a bunch of clicks to the website, but they might bounce right away. They're not necessarily really engaged in your organization or the cause. But if you can leverage Google Ads and kind of follow this strategy of defining the goals in ad groups and finding those keywords and optimizing constantly, you can provide real value. It does provide a lot of good traffic with the right targeting, and you can grow your not only awareness about your organization, but also clicks and engagement to your organization's website. And so if I was to kind of tell a nonprofit or charity, like here are the three takeaways, these would be them. First of all, defining your audience and your goals. Do that first before diving into Google Ads, the platform. Make sure to create tailored ads for those ad groups. And then finally, just review and maintain and optimize over time. And you'll continue to get more and more out of the Google Ads campaign.